second, and bango, bango. I'm recording. I got a little record. So the Zoom is being recorded. And want to welcome everybody who is here. We're going to have more folks that will probably join us or hit us up on YouTube, but I'm trying to squeeze in as much as I can without putting that phone in the view of the camera behind you, so you get a nice clean shot. We already got some hearts bubbling up, David, just so you know. People are already loving this, and we haven't even gotten started yet. That's some good stuff right there. Everybody, again, let me introduce myself. My name is Jay McKey. I'm actually an artist out of Denton, Texas. I'm a painter, graphic designer, photographer, and illustrator. So it's just some stuff that I, have been passionate about for years. I've had my own graphic design business for a long time, designing logos and helping small businesses actually grow their business at the same time. And I have been excited for the last few weeks and months about doing interviews with artists. And I'm super excited today. This person is a very special person. David and I have known each other pretty much forever, almost his entire life, I think. We have had the privilege of knowing each other, and that's an honor for me. David, I've been following David's work, and I'm going to let him do a little bit more talking, but I got to build him up, guys. I got to build him up. But I've been following his work for a long time on Instagram. You can find his work at, we all know about the @ sign. We're all on Instagram, but you can follow his work at David Wayne, W-A-Y-N-E, Creates. So make sure you write that down. Give this man some follows. Make sure you're following him. Make sure you're checking his work out. David's active also on the social media platform, very active on TikTok. So you want to check that out as well. What's your handle on TikTok, David?
It's the same thing.
Same thing.
And this weekend, I'm gonna be going ahead and locking down all the socials. So it'll all be at David Wayne Creates.
Oh, everything at David Wayne Creates, guys. So check it all out. He's blowing it out on TikTok. Very creative. And like I said, I've had the privilege of knowing him and his family for a very long time, and that's something I feel very honored about. But we're going to go right into David. I'm going to let you go ahead and just kind of introduce yourself a little bit, and go ahead and talk to the audience. It's all yours, my friend.
Well, thank you, Jay. Like you said, longtime family friend and mentor. I'm honored to be here. My name's David. Handle at David Wayne Creates, and the reason for that handle is I believe in a traditional view of God being that man created in God's image, and if that's the case, man being created in the image of one who creates, it would be a denial of our very nature to do anything less than to create with our own hands. And so that's what I try to do with my life. I've felt called since a very young age to create children's books. Right now I do murals. I do a lot of freelance art. I like to paint, love working with kids. Really just anything that I can get my hands on. I've been very blessed. I am this summer graduating from Hardin-Simmons University.
Wow.
We've got a very great art department, and I've been mentored by a few really amazing professors that have really impacted my life. And yeah, I guess that sums up me.
That's awesome.
In short.
Yeah, no, that's perfect, my friend. Like I said, I've been following your work for a while. Guy's super, super creative. Like the first time I saw David's work, I was like, I have never seen anybody do what he did. Like I was so impressed with just the way that his mind works. David and I were talking about this a little early, if you were able to join earlier before this interview started. I'm just so impressed with literally how his mind works. So we get to talk a little bit about that in a little bit, David, where you talked about some things that you won, and it was kind of a weird shock, and I want you to talk about that too. But what we're going to do today is I have 3 or 4 questions. Some of my questions have questions inside the question. So if I have one question, that question might have a second question inside of it. So we'll call it 4 questions, but really it might be 6.
Absolutely. And before we get started, just so I can get to the time, this is my favorite album of all time. I'm going to throw it on in the background. We're trying to stick it around 45 minutes today.
Right.
It's a 32-minute album, so it'll let me know when it's time to start wrapping up and when we get to that halfway mark when I go to flip the record over. So
Sounds good, man.
Jim Croce, the greatest of all time.
Nice. Love it.
All right.
Love it. All right, so we're going to fire off with number one. Now, between each of our questions and at any time, David, during the questioning process, if you feel it's relevant to bring in some pieces, and I see you have some hanging in the back, I can't wait to get a look at those a little bit closer. But at any time these questions are relevant for you to pull your pieces in and really give the folks a show, you're free to show all of your work, as much as your work as we can do, and get it out. So I just want to make sure you're good. All right. So question number one, when did you first discover that you were an artist? And when did you discover that that's really kind of what you wanted to do as a course of study and kind of a lifestyle? Kind of two questions in one.
Well, that's the thing about being a kid, Jay, is that you don't have to discover that you're an artist. You know, you dump out a bucket of Legos, you dump out a box of crayons, and there is nothing in your mind that is, like I said, it is the very nature of man to start creating. Somewhere along the line, I've observed in working with kids between 3rd and 5th grade, when that standardized testing starts, something says, I can't do this. I can't be an artist. Mm-hmm. And I think that I had to, and it has to do with some of my hearing impairment being cut off from my peers a little bit in that. Mm-hmm. That switch that said, I can't do this never clicked in my mind. Oh, so, what started as a struggle was actually a blessing in my life. And I'll tell you, like, I remember, the most prestigious award for children's illustrations is Caldecott. And I remember pulling out a copy of Polar Express at 5 years old at the public library and thinking, I'm going to have one of those one day. And, the thing that I've learned is it doesn't matter if I get those awards because I'm already on my day-to-day doing exactly what I'm called to do. I work with kids right now. I'm blessed to have that creativity coming through my life, and I get to share my art with people, and people are incredibly supportive. So if I never win an award again, I think I'll have done everything I set out to do. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to set my sights high.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So kind of when did you discover that this is something that not only you were passionate about, that you decided that this is what I want to do, A, as study, but B, this is where I want my lifestyle to kind of be like. I'm an artist, a lifestyle. When did that happen?
Well, that's a great question. I think, being in high school, me and my buddies, we would draw comic books. We would, I found myself more than wanting to socialize or hang out with other kids as much. We were making, me and my buddies, we were making Lego stop motions in the garage. We were writing our own comic books. We were, all through middle school, we were, hiding in the back of the library reading Calvin and Hobbes and Spider-Man comics. And so these art, it kind of grew out of itself in a way. And I think, like a lot of young men, when I got ready to come to college, it was, I didn't have a very clear path, but the path managed to set itself for me. And while even Hardin Simmons, I think didn't do a good job of promoting how good their art program is and their professors are, because there's other programs that seem to take precedent. Right. I ended up there, and it was exactly where I was supposed to be. Oh. And then
that's amazing.
God just kind of showed me, through, just gave me assignment after assignment until it's like I'm here and I love what I do.
That's amazing. I resonate with that a lot. I think, and I've done a lot of things in my lifetime, different kinds of businesses and so forth. And I think you're right. I think, and I preach this a lot because I actually do work with small businesses and trying to help them kind of grow their brand and so forth. And I think people overthink it a little bit sometimes. And I think really it all just breaks down to kind of what you're talking about. Like, if you're following your passion, then opportunity just kind of naturally trails right behind that. Like, am I looking for this? Am I hunting for this? I don't think so. I think if a passion is being followed, then I think that the doors just start to open. So yeah, I resonate with that. If you'd like, feel free to bring a piece on. Give us a little bit of discussion. I want to intertwine my interviews with art. So definitely pull us up something that you'd like to discuss or show us around or whatever you like to do. And we'll get to the next question after that.
Absolutely. Well, first I'd like to show a couple of my paintings I did a couple years back, and this is really when I think my acrylic art really started to take off. And I really started to understand lighting, and I started
Oh
to
my
understand
gosh.
composition better. And this is actually a buddy of mine posing, and it's called Sam Has a Smoke. It's my best
Love
friend.
that.
Well, I have a lot of best friends. I'm incredibly blessed with the people in my life.
That's awesome.
But this is my buddy Sam. We got him to pose. We actually had him in my little university studio, and I was like, no, man, you can't actually smoke your pipe in here. Like we're gonna suffocate. But just I think the intrigue was a lot of fun. He's the kind of guy that he is a character all on his own, and it was really fun to create him. And around that same time period, I think this is my favorite painting. We're listening to a little bit of Jim Croce in the background. This is
Oh
my absolute
wow.
favorite. And I had to immortalize him. He passed in a
Yeah.
plane crash in
Yep.
73, right at the height of his career. And I think, it was biking through Missouri. I found this record that's on, and I knew a couple songs, and I ended up skipping those songs on it just because I just resonated with this man. Like everything, like it was just so beautiful. And I knew I wanted to immortalize him and try to capture all these details and just like really just look into his eyes and like know who he was. And I think that I'll probably be doing more art based on him. You can see I tried to capture his little rose tattoo. And
I love that.
I had to do some research on it. And there's not a lot of research on his tattoo. And on the album cover, it's kind of blurry. And,
Wow.
I actually found someone online who had tracked down the original artist and like knew a little bit about what tattoo it was. But yeah, I really, I guess that's enough about Jim Croce, but
That's amazing.
man, he's I think he's more than any other artist that doesn't do what I do is like one that I connect with.
Gotcha.
And I think there's going to be a lot of artists that I talk about that it's just like,
Yeah.
that I connect with, that I think I connect heavily with the past. I think that like, it's kind of a look at the world around me and the art around me. And I get this kind of sense of like, I've been here before in some ways through the art that I can connect to, another great example of that is my favorite children's book is The Little Prince.
Yeah.
And I actually share a birthday with Saint Exupery. And I think that's so cool. It was one of the hardest nights of my life. I was looking through this book, like just trying to find some sort of consolation, and I didn't at the end of it. And then I realized that he shared a birthday with me, and it was almost like God was telling me like,
wow,
hey, like this French art, by the way, Reynaud, French last name.
Yep,
I'm
exactly.
proud to bear that legacy.
Yep.
Actually, the crest of the fox, which Le Reynaud is a character in this book, is like not only is a children's book author and illustrator of French descent that you connect to, something that I placed in your life, he shares a birthday with you. And I think just the knowledge of that was like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And, since high school, I've been working on this book, and this is an older version of it. I've since redone the art, but it's called Oliver's World. And this is sort of my pride and joy. And it's about this little character. His name's Oliver. He has a little farm, and he just can't do it by himself. And it's about his friends and how much they love him and how they all rally behind him. And, my mom always likes to say, you are Oliver. And I denied that for so long. And then one day I think, maybe Oliver in a lot of ways is a reflection of me, of the fact that I know that I couldn't do it without the people in my life. But yeah, there's, these are some older illustrations. These are some of my first versions of it. But you can see I mix, and this is a very old illustration. I'll show you. This is can y'all see that all right?
Yeah, move it around. Oh, that's a good angle.
Okay, so this is actually the bottom and top shot, if you can see, or actually, there we go. I think y'all can see that a little bit better.
Yeah, that's good.
This shot was actually taken at dawn, and it was actually Sam from that first picture who helped me get this. I'm telling you, I've got some ride or die friends. 6 a.m. we had to wade through. We were camping out at my professor's ranch. We had to wade through the water in our underwear to try to get this because we were wearing jeans because it was so cold that morning. We got this perfect shot, and you can see it in the high quality on my Instagram. But you can see I mix these little models that I build with the hand-drawn illustrations.
That is amazing.
And there's been a few artists that have done it, but no one has done it exactly the way that I'm doing. There's been, I think,
Exactly.
like I know Mo Willems, is a children's book author that has done it with his Knuffle Bunny series, and they're incredible, but they're not exactly like I do it. And
Yep.
and I think it kind of comes on a kid that grew up on like Space Jam and Legos, that I would create this little universe that like, it would be like this. And one of the biggest influences, I didn't even realize how big of an influence this was until someone said, "Oh man, this reminds me of the I Spy books." Walter
Oh,
White
yeah. I didn't even think of that.
Like you've got, and I didn't either. And then I was like,
That's
oh,
crazy.
my goodness. Just in naturally pulling things out, like I'm creating this memory from my childhood in a whole different way. And I think, Walter Wick is a great guy. I've gotten to talk to him through Instagram.
Wow.
I know this is one of my favorites, as a kid.
Oh, that's awesome.
This whole like thing. There's all these little details and little parts. And I really try to take things that is like kids could have, like kids could make. Like this is Oliver's house. I'm not sure where the roof went, but this is his log cabin. You can see there's a similar cabin that I built out of popsicle sticks that his granddad lives in.
Wow.
And this is actually art for one of my future stories. But
that's amazing.
And I put this log cabin, like this is Lincoln logs. Yeah, but it's got little sticks glued on, and then it's got like a wood flat, and it just kind of blends into the world around it. And one of my favorite little objects, like tiny objects that I made was, and I love to walk around antique stores. I don't know if y'all have seen Toy Story 4. I think it's pretty obvious that a lot of artists get inspiration from walking circles around antique stores. Abilene, Texas, that's where I'm at right now. Tons of those. So I remember one afternoon I was like, I want to make a banjo for my 3-inch tall character. And so I went, I don't know if you can see this. This is a key and a button that I found.
It's a key.
I found at 2 separate antique stores. Yeah.
I did not even notice that.
That's just a fun little, and I think that's what those characters would.
Genius.
It's a very like Americana Depression era. Like I take a lot of influence from Oh Brother Where Art Thou. It's like Oh Brother Where Art Thou meets The Hobbit is this universe.
Nice.
And I really love being able to create this little world. I like to, I just like to see like maybe you and I like see a coffee cup. All right, cool. But maybe someone in their universe sees a little house.
Oh yeah.
That actually took me like 5 coffee cups trying to break it right. I would just shatter every one of them. This one actually didn't even work right. I had to glue it back together. I'm not even sure where I'm going to be able to. I know what character lives here, and I don't know where I'm going to be able to weave it into the series. But I love it, and I really want it to be somewhere.
That is awesome. I love that.
All right, I guess next question.
That is awesome. Guys, I told you. There it is, right? There it is. That's what I'm telling you. That's why I had to interview this man, because the creativity, right? So I want you guys to be hearing that, especially as artists, right? You guys are on the live, and you're definitely hearing that. Go for it. Let your creativity go. Be passionate. Oh, my goodness. Awesome. All right, question number 2. Who are your art influences, and where do you draw your inspirations for your stories?
Well, I already pulled out the Walter Wick book.
Yep.
A huge influence of mine. Like I said, The Little Prince. There's a passage at the very beginning where the main character, he is talking about when he was a kid and the adults told him you should not focus on art. And then he says, that is why I abandoned at the age of 7 what could have been a magnificent career as an artist. And I think that's kind of a tragedy that so many, like I said, like in that age where we start, giving them like focus on math, focus on science, focus on the important things. And we forget about the things that make life actually worth living for. And we kind of encourage kids to be practical. And I think, that comes from a good place. I think that we got to work hard. We have to, have an understanding of the world around us, but also like, I think that there's no reason we can't create art. So Sen-Exupery, oh my goodness. My current favorite artist is Oliver Jeffers. I think you can tell by his handwriting style, and he also has an incredible sense of duality in what he does. And duality is a huge, I think, look at how divisive the world around us is. And I think you can see where both him and I tend to pull our, like, let me do a photograph and a drawing together. Like, let me see this. This is a print on the back cover. And then it's a painting he's done in it. He did a whole book this way. It's called The Moose Belongs to Me, and it's beautiful. My professor, actually, Steve Neves, actually did a sculpture of it, and it's in downtown Abilene. It's so cool. Abilene is actually the has the National Center for Children's Illustrated Literature. It's like a hub for all this stuff. I've actually met a lot of artists. I met, Billy Joyce. He was kind of the reason that it all started. He's the creator of the Guardian series. Super nice guy. I said, man, I know how to draw. I know how to create a universe. How do I tell a story? The man says, watch Casablanca. I run into him in Abilene. Yes, I run into him in Abilene like a year, 2 years later. I said, I just want to say, you said to watch Casablanca. That kind of changed how I view storytelling. And he goes, what did you learn? And we just had this conversation like we're best friends. And that's a whole other thing that I could go through. But
awesome.
Great guy. Oh man, and Sophie Blackall, she's won 2 of the Caldecots that I want. This is actually, I got this from the Nickel right before that the Caldecott got assigned to it, because I, like, the day that they announced it, I went and got this because I'd been wanting to get it anyways. I want it before they get the sticker on there. This one, I've got one signed by her, signed to me, but this one is just signed by her.
Oh, wow.
A beautiful human being. Like, when I say, like, I remember, like, she sat and talked with me about just everything that, like, I wanted to do. And then we were doing this dinner at the Nickel the next night. And then I, like, got assigned to take dessert to her table because I was just serving. And she turns around and touches my arm. She goes, thank you, David. And I'm like, that is the kind of human being that you want to be. Like, that is the inspiration. I remember asking her, I said, Miss Blackhall, what is it like to win a Caldecott? And she goes, honestly, it's something that you never think you'll get. You always hope. And then you get it. And then the next day, all my artist friends and me that have won it, we just go back to work the next day in the studio. Back to painting. And she goes, I still fly coach. And that made me want it more. Like, I was like, oh, it's real. Like, it's a real thing. People are getting this.
That's awesome.
And then a big influence, like I said, Calvin and Hobbes. Free nature. It's beyond a comic strip because Watterson chose to not commercialize it the way that, you know, a few other strips have been commercialized and just kind of beat to death. He chose to end it at the height of its popularity, and the humor, and that's another sense of duality, you know. Some people are like, oh yeah, that's the one about the kid that thinks his tiger's real but the tiger's not really real. And I said, no, it's a strip about 2 alternate realities, one that the adults see and one that Calvin sees. And I personally choose to accept the one where his best friend is a tiger and they're tormenting the neighborhood girls and not doing any school assignments, because that's the fun reality. Why would you not accept that reality? And I think I always have to come back to what was my favorite when I was a kid. And that's Bill Peet, man. He was a Disney animator who, this is one reason I'm doing this stuff now, because he worked for Disney for so long and he made greeting cards for so long. And he said, my biggest regret in life is that I didn't just start making books right away.
Oh, wow.
I think that there was one day that he like stormed out of the Disney office and just said, like, because he had drawn so many of Donald Duck is the Disney one. He had drawn so many of them. He was just sick and he threw his out. He's like, no more damn ducks. And he just runs out of the office. And then he was so good at what he did though. And they couldn't afford
that's insane.
They were underutilizing him.
Yeah.
And he was so good at what he did.
Yeah.
And he had to go back the next day to get his jacket, and they convinced him to stay on for a few more years, if I can remember correctly.
Oh, that is hilarious.
He designed all the characters for, like, Pinocchio, all the monsters and stuff.
Oh, wow.
He designed those. And there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that he didn't really get credit for. But what I really like is, I mean, that classic sense of Americana that is in all of his world is very much present in, if you see, you know, I have a train, you know, that I built.
I saw that train.
If you you know, it's based on the Bill Peet train.
That's awesome.
So Bill Peet, phenomenal artist. Man, I'm trying to think if there's got to be other influences. Really, all my friends that have, you know, worked alongside with me, and I know Frankie and Austin are 2 big ones. You know, my roommate now, Evan, he's an amazing photographer and worship pastor. You know,
Nice.
my buddy Jeremiah that I grew up with me in Austin. That, and man, I know I'm forgetting some people, and I'm sorry. But just know that if you've been an artist in my life, you have influenced me more than you could ever possibly know, and I'm just so grateful for, the people that I've met through the Nickel, the people that I've met through school. Um, Man, just so many great artists.
That's
Let me
awesome.
flip the record over real quick,
Yep.
and then we can get to your next question.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. So hoping you're enjoying. I'm seeing all the same people are still here. We're going to try to get to a spot where you guys can ask some questions. So I know you see me kind of keep sneaking around the corner like that. I'm not trying to not pay attention to David, but if you guys have a question, then I want to make sure he gets it. So every time you see me doing this, I'm like checking out you guys on here. I want to take good care of you too. If you have a question, I definitely want to make sure that question pops up and David can answer, because he's really dropping some bombs here. So this is good stuff. Let's roll into question-ish number 2. And I think for every storyteller, I think this is probably the biggest question, in my opinion, whether it matters or not. But where do you draw your inspirations? I mean, I see that you're drawing from Americana, but when it comes to like laying out a story, or is that really what you're doing? Or you just keep trying to capture that picture? Or if you're doing a series of stories, are you trying to, where's your inspiration for telling that story?
That's a phenomenal question. And, I used to not know how to tell a story. Like I said, I asked Billy Joyce, I said, man, how do I tell a story? He said, watch Casablanca. And what I learned from that was that the same stories are being told over and over again. You're watching Casablanca, everybody walks into Rick's, right? You walk into this, black and white bar, everybody starts turning their heads, the music's playing. You know what I'm thinking? This is the Star Wars Cantina. Just 30 years earlier. You know, and then, a few months later, the movie La La Land came out. And, at the very end, they go into Rick's bar, or they go to Seb's bar, excuse me. And I'm looking at the font and I go, that's the same font as Rick's. This is Casablanca.
Wow.
And,
that's true.
Every character,
I didn't think of that.
Every character in Casablanca has their own little motivations, and they're very clearly stated. And they all are given chances to do the right and wrong thing. And I think that if you want to know how to tell a story, a la Billy Joyce, go watch Casablanca.
Good advice.
And, I also, there's times when I've been mad or frustrated at my friends and be like, wait a second, this is like X, Y, and Z in Oliver's world. And I just go start sitting down. This is how it made me feel. This is how this person was feeling. And then I can reach, I can sort of reach what, like a conclusion and like sort of wrap it up neatly in a bow. We don't always get that in real life. That's right. I mean, children's books are one of my favorite medium because everything sort of works out all right in the end. Yeah. And I think maybe that's one of the many, many reasons I'm drawn to them.
That is awesome. I never really thought about that. I'm trying to think about that as like a painter, right? And to your point, I'm not really ever telling a news story, to be honest with you. I mean, if I'm painting that, how many people have painted flowers in a vase before? I mean, like thousands of people, to your point. So what is it about it? I think you're right. I think it's about the same story has been told, but it's how you tell that story.
Yes.
How are you telling that story?
Absolutely. Like it is the same story that's being told over and over again. But that's not a problem. Like I said, like I attribute, David Wayne Creates as a brand is about, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and then God created man in his own image. So if God created a man in his own image and God is a creator, then man is also a creator. But we're really just remixing all of the things that have been, we're putting things back together, and I might say, oh, I really like the way that Bill Pete drew this train. I'm going to build one the same way that, how would Walter Wick do that in his I Spy books? That's how the train in Oliver's world looks. And, you know, like I take like things like, you know, like Lego or like Lincoln Logs, and like, they're like, how do I put these things? These are not my things. How do I put them in a new way, you know, that someone has never seen before?
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. I love that perspective. I think and I do have painters and graphic designers on. I think that alone is just one of those things that says, you know what, I'm afraid to paint flowers because everybody paints flowers. I'm telling you, and from what I'm hearing from David, I think we're resonating on the same wavelength. Don't be afraid to paint the same subject matter, because no one is going to do it your way. So just
exactly.
go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Exactly.
I got
And
question
I
number.
think it was
Yeah.
Picasso that said, "Don't worry about being unique. Get really good at what you're doing, and that authenticity will come out of that." Because I've never set out to
A
like,
gem.
how can I create something completely new? I
That's right.
just drew from everything that I knew, and it sort of happened, and here I am.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I
I
think that
think
was
that's probably
Picasso. Don't quote me on it.
that's the part that of this interview that gave me a little bit of the goosebumps. So that was good stuff. I'm going to jump to question number 3. I'm trying to track our time. I don't want to run out of time. Looks like we're doing okay. We got almost 15 minutes. That's wonderful. So let's talk about, what are the greatest challenges that you have faced with yourself. You kind of talked about it a little bit, but I want to make sure that we get it in full. What are the greatest challenges that you have faced regarding being an artist? Just yourself.
Man, well, regarding being a person, I talked about, you know, my hearing impairment, but that ended up being like a blessing,
Wow.
because I mean, think about this. You know, you've got kindergarten all the way up through senior in high school. I'm exhausted when I get home from school. So what do? I take my hearing aids out, I dump out my bucket of Legos, I grab my markers, and I create my own little world. Um, and this is my world that goes my way. And I never stopped doing that. And here I am being successful with it. So I think, you know, and I think, you know, a lot of that, I mean, and like, I think that's kind of an obvious one for me to say, like, just because like there's a physical reminder of that on me, that's my challenge. And there's been so many challenges, you know, through college. Like, I've definitely had moments where it was like, you know, like I made the claim, if all I had was God, I'd be fine. And then God was like, really? Let me test that theory. And then you end up starting, you know,
So
and
be
then,
careful
you know,
what you ask for.
yeah, you find yourself reading the book of Job, like, you know, do you tell the lightning where to strike? And you're like, oh, you're right, I don't. And, you know, I think through everything I've learned, like, I am a man of little faith, and I'm still just completely reconstructing my concept of who God even is and what it means to follow him. But,
Awesome.
you know, I think that that's something we constantly have to do in our lives. And I don't mean to get too preachy or anything.
Oh, that's good. We're talking. Yeah, it's fine.
Coming from a place of authenticity here.
Absolutely. 100.
Uh,
I want you to keep it 100, David. And I'm glad that that's the one thing I love about these interviews, is everybody gets to you're exposed to so many personalities and what drives a person. And that's you. So yeah, own it. And I'm glad you're owning it. So,
you know, and then we talked about The Little Prince a little bit, and even like in those darkest moments where I was like, because at the end of the book, it's really vague and it's kind of dark, and like even for a children's book, and I'm like, what happens to him? And I like, you know, like what's gonna happen to me? And then, you know, like flipping to the last page and be like, there's nothing left in this book except the author thing. Like, where do I go from here? Like, there's nothing left in the book. And then I read, you know, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry was born June 29th, 1900. And I was like, wait a second, that's my birthday. And I had to fact check that. And I was like, you know, like, this is my purpose on the planet and I'm doing it. And, you know, I think that that's, I don't know, like, and it's not that I didn't have struggles after I realized that, but like, I still have struggles, but I think I'm in a much better place mentally.
and I'm glad you mentioned struggles, right? Because a lot of people do get that attitude of like, and I know with art, it's that way, like literally, and it's that way with everything in life, right? Like things get really tough. I mean, you know, I know you and I both come from kind of a martial arts background, and it's kind of relevant to that. It's like, sometimes we get punched in the face, and you have 2 reactions that you can have to that. One, you can take that hit and run to make sure that you never, ever, ever are going to get hit like that again. Or 2, you can figure out how to stay in the same place and just move a little bit so that you can manipulate it and you can learn from it and you can grow from it and you can get a skill set and you can tune it so that you can stay where you're at and you don't always have to run, and you can just kind of, not that you're doing damage yourself, but you're learning as you go. It's almost like I say with artists, and I tell this to business owners all the time. Running a business is like jumping out of a plane and building your parachute at the same time, literally. If you wait too long, and if you wait for the perfect moment to be the perfect, to chase your passion, and you say, I'm going to wait until this and I'm going to wait until that, you probably waited too long to chase your passion. So chase your passion, jump out of the plane and build your parachute on the way down, because that's going to give you the incentive and the drive that you need to build it right.
And it's so interesting that you bring up the martial arts background, because everything is connected. And like, you know, looking at like, you know, getting hit and like, you know, maybe the opponent is stronger than you, but like, let's look at like, you know, the Dan Santo, Bruce Lee, Ip Man kind of principle of Wing Chun. And that whole principle is not that I have less energy and you have more energy. Right. There's X amount of energy in the fight. I can use it to my advantage, even if it's your energy. And then if you're coming at me with a punch, I'm coming at you. And I think that that's some, you know, like I'm using that forward energy, and that's actually, I'm using that against you. That's absolutely right. Because I see, and that's, you know, I see my struggles as not something I would trade, but something that have made me that much stronger.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, there's so many art and martial arts metaphors that just go hand in hand. They're life. It's life.
Yeah, it was going to be too easy for us to go there today, so I steered clear of that.
I knew that was where we were going, Jay. And so I've got like 10 more if it goes that way. Yes,
I knew you and I could go there all day long, but I wanted to
we might bore our audience.
Right.
This kind of geeky
absolutely.
Stuff, yeah.
All right, guys. So we're locking in about 7 minutes. I want to ask David one question, if you can answer it kind of quick, and then I'll open the floor if anybody's got questions, and then we can start to wrap up. But absolutely. I do want to know what your plans for the future are, but I also want to know where everybody can follow you, because that's a big deal. The thing about this program for me is I get so much joy out of exposing artists who are awesome. So what are your future plans? And tell people where you can be followed, liked, reached, all of that stuff.
Well, you can always reach me on Instagram at David Wayne Creates, and TikTok. Now, my TikTok blew up this week because of a Lego Perry the Platypus that my third graders told me to make, and
that's awesome.
So I guess that's
genius third graders.
Yeah. Like this is I made this little platypus that this Perry from Phineas and Ferb, and I made a whole bunch of different like little versions and things of him, and everybody seemed to like him. But I'm going to try to transition that back into my painting and mainstream art now that I have a platform there. But yes, at David Wayne Creates on TikTok. Especially, I really, you know, my main voice is going to be on Instagram always.
Yeah.
Mine
too.
And I think that I'm going to try to this weekend go ahead and lock down at David Wayne Creates on YouTube and other social media. Awesome. So watch out for that. There's no content there yet, but you know, I'm really trying to move forward that way.
That's awesome. So talk to us also, future plans. What's your ideal plan? Let's say 5 years and 10 years from now. What are you thinking?
Man, you know, over the next year, 2 years, I'm going to be in Abilene. I'm going to try to do as many murals as possible. There's a few muralists that I really respect in town that I'm going to try to surpass. And
that is great.
Because I respect them. Because I respect how beautiful they've made this town, how much the art adds to the culture of, you know, what used to be a small town and is now very growing. And so I'm definitely coming for a few people in that regard. I'd like to, you know, hit up a lot of West Texas and Texas towns. You know, I've had a lot of people have ideas, and we're trying to figure out how to work that out. You know, Oliver's World is my dream project. It's my baby, and it's not going out the door till it's ready. You know, a year ago I thought it was ready. That was the printed version you saw. It's not ready.
Gotcha.
But it's very close. I've redone all of that art now. And if there's anybody out there that has a connection for me,
absolutely.
And if you want to bless me with that, please hit me up. I'm looking for representation. I'm looking for an agent. I'm looking for a publisher. And I don't know anything yet.
That's okay.
I'm learning how little I know. But yes, I'd like to publish my book. Really, if we're talking about the next 5 years, the youngest person to ever win a Caldecott is 26, and I turned 23 this past week.
Oh,
so
you got plenty of time, man.
this has been 4.5 years of work on this book so far. So,
Awesome.
time to get in gear. We're in the home stretch for trying to get it out the door. If that's going to be the one that wins, maybe, who knows? And I'm not going to find identity in an award, but I'm certainly not going to not try to go get it.
Absolutely. I mean, when we have to knock, so we have to have some action, right?
Yep.
Doors don't open until we knock.
Absolutely.
Things don't get found until we seek them, and
Yes.
stuff doesn't happen until we ask about it. So definitely, I agree with the action piece of that. We are getting really close, guys. Do you have any questions? You do not have to ask questions. Throw this man some love. Give this man some hearts. I think Instagram does the heart thing. Pump it up, pump it up. Pass this on to your friends. Share that we are doing these awesome art interviews here. I think I have had probably more fun than I should have. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't supposed to have this much fun, but first of all, just to reconnect again is just an honor to have followed what you do, and to be just so incredibly enamored with, like, how in the world does he get that angle and get that lighting? Because guys, his work is a combination of like illustration and real life and setups and built kits, and I mean, it's just amazing. It's beyond me. I take a little bit of paint and I slop it on a canvas, and man, you're setting it up like a movie. And that just, to me, is impressive. That is, so you got a fan with me, that. I
always appreciate that.
I probably would have been a fan whether I knew you or not, because just the artistic side of me is very, very happy with what I see with your work.
I really appreciate that, Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I don't necessarily see questions. We do have 3 minutes, so we are good on here. And is there any other pieces that you'd like to show us? We do have like a couple of minutes. I think we have 2 minutes. 2 minutes. You have any other pieces you'd like to show? Did you get them all in? You got them all in?
I got them all in.
All right. That's okay. And that's exactly what we wanted to do. Guys, I want to say a special thank you to everybody who jumped on. You want to check out my YouTube channel. It's also at J McKey. It's the same exact thing as my Instagram. David's got a good idea. We're going to all keep it the same. Makes it easy for everybody to find it. But this Zoom session that was actually videoed, I'm going to actually upload that to YouTube. It's definitely something David I want to do it for him too. He can share that with his audience. And I appreciate all of you guys jumping in. It is 7:43. David Wayne at David Wayne Creates. You definitely need to share a little love with this guy. Give him a little bit of some of your comments. I know you guys make great comments, by the way. I've had some great comments from the artists on here, David. Real artists. I mean, people that know what art should be. And like you said, I think you said it best at the first of the interview. What person doesn't think they're not an artist when they dump out a box of crayons? I don't think I'll ever forget that, to be honest with you. It struck me so hard that, like, absolutely. I do that on my same Instagram live. Everybody is an artist. Who cares what anybody thinks, as long as it's following your passion? You are a man of passion, and I thank you so very much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Absolutely.
My pleasure.
I appreciate you. Guys, that's it for today. It is 7:44. We're going to do a wrap. I'm going to wrap it up here, and I appreciate all of you guys jumping on. Whoops, almost dropped my phone. Thank you so much, everybody. Check it out on YouTube and share it with everybody, all right? Have a good one. Later.
Hi, everybody.
And end.